Good morning, everybody. I know a lot of people flew to Seattle, and we are glad to welcome you with the usual cloud here. So somebody told me for the next 7 days it's going to be cloudy and raining. So welcome to Seattle, and welcome to the cloudy city, right? So a quick intro. I won't be using any slides today. Maybe we can switch this off. Great. So I'm going to, share some of these stories, right? Share some of the journey that we have gone through here. Some of you have heard from us over the years. So I'm going to talk to you about basically three themes. One, why we invested heavily in Oracle Cloud in Seattle, and how this has transformed into a fundamental cloud strategy for Oracle. And second, the current state of the business, right? Where we are with our cloud initiatives, where we are with our investments going forward, both in terms of regions, both in terms of the products and feature investments, and how radically we are going after this market. And third piece is touch on how significant HPC in our strategy in expanding our market reach using cloud, right? So with that, let me start with 4.5, 5 years ago, a bunch of us came from AWS to figure out, how do we radically transform the cloud market, especially targeted towards the enterprises, right? If you roll back 5 years ago, the cloud was still nascent, and it was getting embraced with the enterprises. And we thought that a lot of Gen 1 cloud providers like Amazons and Azures, they started almost 13, 14 years ago now. And they started with targeting developers and startups, right? How do we make something to get started easily? How do we make the Lego pieces where the generalist, rather than the experts, put together a certain solutions? Or even at the other extreme, developers just need the resources to build something amazing, something truly scale out from the amount of investment that was going into the startup community, whether it's the mobile backend or a true SaaS. Case in point, Netflix of the world, the Dropbox of the world, right? So we thought, what if we build a cloud for the enterprises? What if we radically shift the conversation from the low end of the cloud proposition to a truly high end of the cloud proposition? Because everything that was compelling in the Gen 1 cloud, such as easy to access, easy to sign up, pay for only what you use for, everything is programmatic and with an API interface, right? Nothing that was there in the cloud that was not compelling for enterprises, other than the security was not good, because security was an afterthought, and performance was truly variable and not consistent in terms of for enterprises to really bet their business in the cloud. So we said, OK, that's one aspect. And second, the older clouds were also not targeting the existing workloads. The positioning was, hey, look, cloud, you have to do things differently. The stuff that you do in the on-prem, it's all legacy and not good. You have to retransform, redevelop, and re-embrace infrastructure. This is the cloud way of doing things. So with that entire approach of positioning to enterprises to retransform was not pragmatic. And enterprises like, it requires more for me to redevelop or recode my application than to pay for the infrastructure. So there was a big mismatch in expectation for what cloud need to be for enterprises to adapt. We took those two fundamental principles and started a big initiative here in Seattle to build a generation 2 cloud, as Larry calls it, right? So it was hard, right? When you think of a cloud, it's a broad platform. It has to have a bare minimal services across multiple regions. It requires billions of dollars in CapEx investments. It needs to compete with the well-mature competitors like Amazons and Azures of the world. So where do you get started? So it was a true startup journey for us. It started with a bunch of people, in fact, sitting in this space, right? This is where we started. On the third floor, it was dark and dingy at that time. It was not this fancy here. So roughly 20, 25 people started here. Now it's thousands of people working on this cloud. The journey started small with a focus on stringent security, right? Stringent peak performance, consistency in performance, and price performance. ability to provide confidence for enterprises that if you bet your business on us, we are going to cover you with stringent SLAs. So we started with something foundational, such as off-box virtualization, where what if I give you a bare metal instead of a VM? We kind of essentially said, what if I give you a computer where there is no code from Oracle running on it? There is a zero trust between a provider and a customer, right? We radically changed the way a computer is offered in the cloud in a simplistic way, right? So we were the first one to offer the bare metal cloud with a virtual network, with an ability to connect to our high-performance block storage service, with an ability to connect to our highly scalable distributed object storage service. 3.5 years ago, that was our cloud, right? That was our Gen 2 cloud. And it started with a small vision, but it transformed into a highly focused, highly valuable set of services, highly differentiated, where enterprises can get started with the workloads they could never have in the Gen 1 clouds. A lot of people didn't believe at that time, like, it's too late, you're laggards, market is all taken. Even now, it was even true 3.5 years ago. It's not true, right? All of you know there are a bunch of smart minds here. This is a massive market opportunity, right? The entire data center as a service, whether it's hardware or a software or a service component of a data center, is transforming into a cloud service business, right?
So I just wondered, was there any pushback from the rest of Oracle on the bare metal thing, given that Oracle?
Yeah, I'll come there, right? So in terms of, it's a $1 trillion+ opportunity, and even now, only tens of billions have been reached, right, in terms of the total market reach, even including the Gen 1 and the Gen 2 cloud providers. It's still a long marathon. We are just getting started, right? It's never too late, especially when you're reinventing the entire set of services. You're reinventing the entire set of commercial models that are available in the cloud. So coming to that point, we are right now, I consider to be a complete no-compromise cloud available for enterprises. Think of an infrastructure layer that has storage, network, security, identity, and some of the migration capabilities. Whether you think vertically or horizontally, that portfolio is now complete within Oracle. If you think of a next level data layer services, which used to be called as PaaS services, which we don't call it anymore, whether it's a database-centric services or big data services, which are even more higher level, or a developer-centric services such as, I want event service, I want functions, I want managed Kubernetes. We have the more complete cloud, especially targeted towards enterprises that care about it, right? And then on top of it, we're also proud of a really relooked and reinvented marketplace, right, which I'm going to talk about it later, which is a passion of mine to expand and reinvest going forward. What this factored into is, why does Oracle care, right? How does this transform into Oracle Cloud Strategy? So now, I don't know how many of you observed our big announcements at OpenWorld. Oracle now is going big on 2 cloud businesses, right? One is our cloud in SaaS, where as a business user, you want to really consume it as a service. You just want a user licenses, whether it's a human capital management, HCM as a service, or ERP as a service. Think of Salesforce like, the Workday like, right, where customers only care about the business users and the business results, and they want a SaaS service. We have a billions of dollars worth of business, which is fast growing. We call them as a SaaS portfolio, right? We are going all in on it. The second piece of the business which we are going all in on is the cloud infrastructure space. Think of this as synonym to Azure of the world or the AWS of the world, where customers want the individual services to build a modern application or ability to migrate their on-prem application to the cloud. So these are the 2 massive bets we are making. This is demonstrated by 3 things, right? One, our ability to invest massively across the globe. In the last 12 months alone, we have launched 12 regions across the globe. On average, we have launched one region a month, right? Which is massive set of momentum, both in terms of our ability to spend a lot of money and also ability to orchestrate within engineering, tenacity to do these many things quickly. And we are not stopping here, right? We are also expanding rapidly. We are on track to launch 20 new regions in the next 15 months. That means, on average, we'll be launching a new region every 24 days going forward in the next few quarters, right? Which massively talks about our big pockets and also our ability to embrace the new world where we are reacting to our customer demand. We are reacting to our opportunity that's staring right in front of us, right? The second aspect is we are investing heavily because we are building valuable services, and we are building valuable services because there is a massive customer demand. On average, we are adding somewhere between 500 to 800 customers a month, and our usage is skyrocketing. And keeping up with customer demand in terms of meeting capacity requirements across the globe has been one of our engineering challenges now. I call these as first-class problems, right? If I invest a lot, no one is using it, then it's not that interesting, right? So that's a second indicator that we are truly making a massive uptake and massive progress in the way we are going to market with this investment. And the third is the love of ecosystem, right? Oracle always has been a product company, right? You heard or you used to hear the words like red stack, the Oracle stack. It's monolithic. If you're not using only the red stack components in your application, it's not optimal. It's an iPhone-like experience because everything is integrated, right? We were that company for a long time. With the big initiative of cloud and with especially the infrastructure investments, we are truly transforming from a product company to a platform company, right? What that tells is we are no more a single monolithic stack, right? We are truly heterogeneous in terms of ability for customers to come in and build on this platform. And my job is to give you the right set of components, right set of services, with or without Oracle stack in it, right? For example, today you can go to our cloud, and it need not be. You not only get Oracle database as one of the options in various flavors. Starting with, you can install a Oracle database on a VM, to a bare metal, to a 2-node rack, to an Exadata, and also to the other extreme of complete autonomous database service for Oracle database. It doesn't mean that customers don't get any other database flavors. We also offer a first-class native SQL server customers can install right next to their Oracle database, available within the platform. Similarly, we have customers like Reliance Jio, one of the largest telco providers in India, don't use a single Oracle database in their truly scale-out web applications. They use Redis for their caching, Mongo for their persistence layer. Both are certified and available through our marketplace, right? So in other words, we are truly embracing the heterogeneity that customers expect in a cloud provider. And I consider this to be two-dimensional. There are some partners who are truly strategic to us, who extend the platform horizontally, where you have partners like Microsoft, where we broke the path for a multi-cloud for the first time. No other vendor offers an ability for enterprises to choose 2 clouds and make them operate and look like one, which we have done that. And also similarly, partners like VMware. How many of us thought Oracle would work with VMware, historically speaking, right? So we broke those barriers, and VMware will be available as a native service. Alongside our ability to give you a KVM-based VMs, it's customer choice, right? We are not truly making it monolithic. We are really breaking the boundary and breaking the barriers that Oracle had as a product mindset to a platform mindset. And then it's not stopping here. We are expanding this to a wide variety of ISV partners through our marketplace, right? In other words, we are, whether you want OS of XYZ, you get it. You want monitoring tools of blah, you get it. You want migration tools of A, B, and C, you get it. So we are going to invest massively in our marketplace to give a vibrant partner ecosystem for customers to truly solve any problem they choose on our platform to make Oracle a true platform, not necessarily a product mindset when we go to the cloud. So why this is important is for Oracle strategy, to summarize Oracle strategy, we have two businesses, the SaaS business and the infrastructure business. And the beauty is they are not independent of each other. When you think of our SaaS business, the entire SaaS business will run on Oracle cloud infrastructure that we have built for external customers. In other words, the SaaS business will be one of my internal customers that I'm going to be managing, like how I manage external customers like Cisco and Reliance, right? Why this is compelling? Because if I can solve the stringent demand of a large-scale enterprise SaaS providers like HCM and ERP, which is provided within Oracle, I can essentially solve any enterprise problems much more easily, right? They're very complex and critical business that they run for enterprises, and they run on us. And strategically for Oracle, it's an amazing, efficient way of spending our capital, right? Instead of each one of our businesses, which relies on infrastructure, like Oracle managed cloud service, which is a hosting business, or SaaS, which is kind of a true SaaS investments. We have consulting business. They all used to have their own infrastructure done crazily, and also from a capital perspective, it was inefficient. Right now, one capital outlay, one place to invest right, one place to build the services right, and all the Oracle properties sit on top of it, right? And second, once we build this truly sophisticated enterprise-grade infrastructure, I can easily take this to my existing install base of thousands of customers, and we are going to solve the problems that other cloud providers didn't or couldn't, right? So this is, in an essence, our strategy going forward, where we are going to invest in two massive businesses, each feeding off of each other, right? If they succeed, we succeed, and vice versa, and we are going all in on it. And this is also related to our regional expansion that I talked about. Every region I go to, our SaaS will be there. Our add-on value based services that we offer will be available in all the regions that we go to, right? Which is monumental. So one last comment on our region aspect, right? So when we do our region expansion strategy, we have done that in a very differentiated way, the Gen 2 way. Initially, 3 years ago, when we first started with our first region, it had the construct of Amazon, right? So a region has 3 data centers close enough to each other. We call them as availability domains. And these are massive investments with a minimum of 3 data centers. And in North America, we have 2 of them, right? We have Phoenix and Ashburn. Each of these regions have 3 data centers each, right? That means the availability domains gives you an ability to do availability for your applications, but you can do the disaster recoverability in Phoenix if your production is running in Ashburn, and vice versa. But we figured out very quickly, when I'm expanding in regions where it may not be as big of a market like North America, or customers would want to have DR more than availability in lots of Oracle-centric applications, then we said, you know what, we are going to change our strategy in regions where you may not need massive investments, like North America or in EMEA. So we have an in-region DR strategy. That means every region I go to, we'll have at least 2 regions which are separated by more than 100 kilometers each. For example, India, last week we launched Mumbai as our first data center, or a first region. And Hyderabad, which is roughly like 600 kilometers apart, we'll have a second region for customers to get a DR capability, which will be announced early next year. It doesn't mean that customers don't have an ability to do high availability in the new design. I think we are the first one which offers, even within a single data center design, we have a concept called fault domains, right? At least 3 fault domains, synonym to the availability domains in a larger regions. where customers really can place their resources in different fault domains. So they get a similar experience of availability domain because we kind of manage the fault domains like availability domains. Where possible, we'll have a different power and cooling. Where possible, where when we deploy our software change across a region, we only do one fault domain at a time. So more likely that not more than one fault domains will be impacted for whatever the case, right? So you still can design an application in a high availability way in our new region. And that's one of the reasons why we are expanding rapidly, where we changed our design constructs on the fly and also keep it very dynamic. And the last point here is we're also experimenting with large banks and telcos, a concept called dedicated region, where if a customer is large enough, if the customer is constrained with an ability to embrace cloud because of regulations or geopolitical reasons, we are going to build a region dedicated for a single customer. Imagine we build a region or a data center in Cupertino for a large customer, and they will be the only customer in that region. But they will be connected to all our global region. It's their choice to use other services in other regions or not, right? We essentially break the stereotype of I don't like multi-tenancy, my regulators don't want to share the data, or share the platform, or share the network. I need to have a commercial model where I need blah, 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 which is very hard to enforce in the commercial region. We can do all of them in a concept for dedicated region where we are going to democratize ability to consume data centers and consume cloud in a radically different fashion for a super large customers, right? Most of you guys know, I've heard and we have heard that large customers saying, you know what, at scale, I can be competitive to cloud providers. At scale, I can do whatever cloud providers can do. Theoretically, that is true, but as you know, many large vendors tried to be in the cloud business and they couldn't. This is a hard thing to do. So we are essentially giving them what they want in their on-premise at scale, like how we do for enterprise, how we do for commercial cloud regions. So which is one of my personal favorites in terms of how we think differently, how we kind of get to customers where the Gen 1 really didn't solve for the problems that enterprise cared about. So before I move into some of the differentiators which are very specific, I want to take a pause if you have any questions so far.
How does the pricing work for the dedicated regions?
So I'll answer that. Let me quickly comment on our commercial model in general, because that requires me to answer your question. So when we think of a leapfrogging, we think of leapfrogging not only for the products, but also for the commercial models, right? You guys are the experts on how commercial model works in other clouds. You have pay-as-you-go, you have reserved instances, you have you have spot instances, you have a marketplace for spot instances. The commercial model gets crazy because it's an organic evolution of how things transform from pay-as-you-go to enterprise grade, right? People try to patch the solutions to make commercial models relevant to enterprise customers. We radically changed it, right? We sell customers a simple cloud currency. We call them as universal cloud credits, right? Or universal cloud model, UCMs, where customers get to buy let's say a dollar value, let's say $1.2 million worth of cloud credits. It's a currency which will allow them to buy anything and everything that I have to offer within the cloud, right? That $1 million, customers can tomorrow use computers. Day after, they can use Exadata. Next week, they can use GPUs. They can choose to spend that currency on any one of the line items. Each one of the line item has a list price and a discount that is applicable for a given customer, right? So it's a very simplistic model. Customers are buying a cloud, not an individual resource, right? Think of this. RI model is essentially an on-prem buying experience where you're buying a set of computers for 3 years fixed, right? And you cannot use that commitment or a contract for anything else. You're stuck with one version or a one model or a one resource. So in this model, a simple cloud currency is applicable for everything. Tomorrow, I launch 5 new services. Next month, I launch 10 new services. The same currency that you bought last year, you can spend it on the new stuff that we are going to launch automatically, right? So it's a very simplistic way to think about consuming cloud the way it needs to be for a cloud platform. Basically, customers are buying into a platform, not necessarily for individual things, right? So the only difference in dedicated region commercial model is they are still buying into UCM. There will be a high minimum commit, right? You need to spend in terms of $20+ million. And we are going to work with you on getting that region set up. But the way you consume it is no different than how it works in the commercial model. The X number of millions of dollars that you commit, you can continue to use whatever services you like. It's my responsibility to give you the resources that you consume the most. It's my responsibility to do the capacity management. If you consume lots of exadatas, you run out of exadatas, I'll bring them more, right? If you don't use a bunch of compute that you were using last month, no problem, I'll figure it out, right? So the commercial model and the usage experience is no different than how it works in the commercial for dedicated. All right, anything else?
With regard to whom you're targeting, I can think of potential segments here, and I'm just not, can you highlight the segments in terms of current usage? To what extent are you targeting, you're not doing as much HPC as you would like overall, and now you can use our cloud?
Yeah.
Versus you're doing it on-premise, and I'm going to convert you to cloud, versus you're using someone else's cloud, and I'd like you to switch to my cloud.
Yeah.
And then to what extent does whatever strategy you're following also the same strategy you're targeting non-HPC usage in the same cloud?
Yeah, that's a great segue. So,
No charge.
yeah, that's a good segue, because the way we think about this is we are in a truly heterogeneous space, right? We are giving you fundamental sets of services where customers can solve a problem where they want to have a mobile backend done right to, I run old style EBS that was running for 20 years, I want to migrate that to the cloud, right? The spectrum of things that customers do truly varies. It boggles my mind. But we have simplified the go-to-market motion for us in 3 big buckets, right? Those are horizontal swim lanes, as I call it, and you can verticalize them as you choose it. So the first big bucket is we are Oracle. We have a massive Oracle investment and install base from a customer standpoint, and they're all enterprises, right? For the last couple of decades, customers have literally bet their businesses on Oracle apps or Oracle database, or a combination of both. So first big investment opportunity for customers when they look at the cloud is, I run my packaged applications like EBS and JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, right, Hyperion, you name it. There are like 20+ packaged apps which solves a business problem for customer, and they're ready to be moved and improved in the cloud, and only Oracle can solve it. It's a true blue ocean for us. You cannot solve these problems in other clouds because you cannot support 2-node rack or Exadatas or Oracle expertise that customer expect in the other cloud they don't have, right? That's one massive investment applicable across all verticals. The second one is what we call it as custom Oracle applications, or ISVs, where customers are running a massive data warehouse or a custom application built on .NET or Java or other open source applications which uses Oracle as a backend, or SAP NetWeaver, which is a ERP application stack but runs on Oracle, or Manhattan, which provides logistics as a service, has hundreds of customers in the on-prem wanting to move to the cloud. So these are kind of a truly blue ocean opportunity for us, where we are the only place they can transform their business or migrate their applications on the cloud. We absolutely focus because that's a beachhead, right? Once you go to these large enterprises, get them convinced to go to the cloud and show them we do the hard stuff that you cannot do it on the other cloud. that establishes us an ability to get a business sponsor. We get a CISO approval because we are doing the hardest and the most valuable application in the cloud. That means we get all the necessary checklist within the enterprises, whether it's the CISO to COO or CXO. And the third is we get married to their network because you need fast connect, you need ability to have a secure communication to interconnect their network to ours. We do all of things using these massive beachhead opportunities for us. And this is what I call it as Oracle on Oracle workloads. This is where we go and establish beachhead in every large enterprise. And the other part, right, I would say 40%, 60% of my usage comes from this massive beachhead use cases. And the remaining 40%, I call them as infrastructure heavy, right? It kind of factors into two big buckets. Customers like bare metal, customers like peak performance, the faster network, ability for them to use a lot of open source components, ability for them to embrace lots of unique way of delivering some services for them to build high scale applications. Think of this as big investment in terms of I want to run Cloudera in OCI. I need faster network, better price performance, and I need an ability to integrate with my on-premise tool. We end up with customers like Cisco, which runs a massive SaaS applications, which is called Tetration, which is a network monitoring and optimization service. They sell it to enterprises, but the entire backend runs on Oracle Cloud, which uses zero Oracle database, by the way, right? Same thing with Reliance, as I talked about. They run a mobile backend, an engagement app that they run for 350 million subscribers. At some point, their biggest peak usage was 50 million concurrent users. The entire infrastructure runs on us, which uses zero Oracle database or zero Oracle affinity to their use cases, right? There are a bunch of high throughput, high scale applications that we have, which we see tremendous traction in. And the last but not the least is the HPC investments, right? So before we get into the HPC use case, a brief context on why HPC matters to us and why we care about this use case in particular and this market in general, right? So I would say 15 months ago, or 18 months ago, we said, what are the blue ocean that we need to create for ourselves? What are the hard problems that are not solved in the other clouds that we need to solve for, right? What are the use cases that are more compelling to be done in the cloud rather than in the on-prem, right? The better way to ask that question is, how can I compete with the on-prem, not with Amazon in the cloud, on the places where I can truly differentiate and have a beachhead? That's one way of solving the problem for us. We're thinking in that direction. And the second input came from Exadatas, right? If you think of Exadatas, it's a mix of compute servers and the storage servers, which are interconnected through InfiniBand network, right? But we sell it as a rack, monolithic, deeply integrated, iPhone-like database experience in the cloud, in the on-prem for customers. So we also thought, what if we figured out a way to provide infrastructure components to deconstruct Exadatas in the cloud? What if Exadatas can be 80-node Exadatas, not just limited to 8-node, because that's all you can do in a single rack, right? So there was two problems. One, like the business opportunity, then there is a technical problem that we need to solve for our internal, most valuable product that we need to do it right in the cloud. Then we said, OK, let's redefine this market. Let's go build a service for HPC customers, right? What that transformed into, what if we provide the world's first RDMA over Ethernet, the Rocky way of doing it right in the cloud, where I can go to every on-prem customers, whether they're running crash simulation or weather simulations or genomic sequencing, and say, if you have an RDMA-based workload, InfiniBand-based workloads, I will give you a better version of an infrastructure which has certified applications that you run that works in the cloud, and the cost that we can beat you any day even compared to on-premises. Hey, by the way, you cannot do it anywhere else in the cloud. None of the other cloud providers offer a programmatic way of launching, cluster network-enabled computers in the cloud and use when you want, shut it down when you don't. Customers didn't believe us when we went to few of the target customers initially. In fact, when we first talked to Altair about this, they're like, no, you must be kidding me. It's not Oracle. I don't trust what you're saying, right? So essentially, we opened up a new market for ourselves, which was built on top of our bare metal, which was unique, which was built on top of our network, which was not oversubscribed, end-to-end 25 gig at that time, 2 years ago, and layer on top of it a RDMA network, which is less than 1.5 microsecond latency between the nodes, and you can have up to 20,000 cores within the same cluster working on a massive simulation job, right? And we have priced that offering right now very competitively, like 6.5 cents per core hour for a high-frequency CPU, which also gives you a good enough memory and also local NVMe. You don't even get a standard computer on Amazon. Amazon M5 costs you 10 cents. Our HPC SKU costs you 6.5 cents, list price, right? So I think we radically changed the mindset for customers, again, embracing the same theme of we do the hard stuff, right? HPC is also hard stuff. People thought no cloud provider will ever provide me an InfiniBand network. We do. We also work with our valued partners like Altair and Denso and Rescale and LS-DYNA, you name it, so that customers don't have to change anything. If they use the software that they love in the on-prem, they can bring and run the same software and run it here. And the third thing that we typically hear is, I'm very cost conscious and I'm on-premise and I'm buying these things from HP and Dell. This is my TCO. We are like, yeah, this is how we are going to beat that for you. And by the way, it's OpEx, not CapEx, right? So I think 3 big factors, which were all built on the foundation of our price performance, peak performance, and consistency of performance, and do that on top of an RDMA network, which essentially opened up the entire horizontal swim lane of HPC. And we are right now focusing on few verticals like oil and gas and manufacturing and automotive, where all these verticals are ready to retransform their business, ready to invest, ready to embrace cloud, and we are going all in on it, and that's the reason why you're all here today. It's a long-winded answer, but
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, anything else?
What I don't hear from you is a story of a sort of on-prem and cloud close integration, because you've got basically the same technology.
Yeah.
I just wonder, are you interested in that, or are you really hoping to replace all on-prem?
No, I think this is where the answer is. I don't believe that on-prem is going away anytime soon, right? It will coexist, both in terms of on-premise and cloud. There will be places where you have to do it in the on-prem. There will be places you need to do it in the cloud. So that's why having an ability to have a beachhead with a lot of enterprises where interconnectivity in terms of network, interconnectivity in terms of identity, right? And interconnectivity in terms of common operations model. My job is to give you those 3, right? It's customer's choice is to figure out which one they need to do it in the on-prem, which one it makes sense to do it in the cloud, right? So I think our ability is to give you the factors in which customers can make those decisions, and we are not forcing them. In fact, we took the other leap, right? We figured out very quickly that customers are embracing 2 or more clouds, right? It's not that one cloud will solve all my problems. That is a mirage. That's not true at all. In fact, 70 to 80% of customers that we engage today are using at least 2 or more clouds, including us, right? So that means we had to really solve this problem for customers where if they are running Microsoft and Oracle next to each other in the on-prem forever, how can we give the same experience in the cloud, right? So this is where we engaged with Microsoft extensively to make SQL Server available within our cloud if customers want that, or we also bring Azure right next to us so that customers have a better connectivity from their data center to ours and Azure, and they operate like one unit, right? Both in terms of identity, the support, and the network, where we are not only breaking the barrier for on-prem to the cloud, but also we are breaking the barrier of cloud to cloud, where this is where we see the pattern emerging. Hybrid is not just an on-prem to the cloud, but also on-prem to a cloud and to another clouds, right? So, which is inevitable from my point of view.
What about time?
All right, so couple more points. So I think, so a couple more points, then I land. So from a market standpoint, we are very focused, right? We are very focused to create beachheads in the enterprises with a very focused set of stories that we go to, right? It doesn't mean that we are not embracing other use cases, right? So we are also working with lots of generic use cases where customers want to do IoT, customer want to do a massively scalable backend built on Kubernetes to events and functions. So that is a part of a thing where that's not my beachhead, that's an extension story, right? Because everybody else do it, we also do it. But our beachhead is where our unique value proposition is there, right? Where customers can only do it here, and when they do it, I'm going to delight them with the experience, not only with the product, but also with the ops and the support models, right? And then lastly, I don't want this group to think in terms of Oracle is going all in on enterprise use cases. That means, as I started with the notion of other clouds start with a developer-centric story where you have millions of developers with lots of mindset, and they're slowly moving into enterprises. Even though we started with the enterprises in mind, where my set of customers are few thousands of enterprises, but we are in a business where we cannot ignore developers. We cannot ignore generating and creating mindset of what Oracle Cloud is. So we are betting big on developer-centric services. Right now, think of a basic set of services. We have it in terms of sophisticated telemetry to events and notification and streaming, functions, which is a Lambda equivalent on us, which can be triggered by integrating with events, managed Kubernetes, which essentially is a big bet on Kubernetes. But there are a few things to take a note here, right? One, we are embracing open standards and industry standards in everything that we do in developer-centric services, right? That means when you think of streaming, it's Kafka compatible. When you think of events, which is CNCF ratified, an event generated in my cloud can be, can be streamed out and integrated into Azure, and you can trigger their function equivalent, right? Much more seamlessly because even they are CNCF compatible, right? Our orchestration service is not based on a custom JSON, but we embrace Terraform, which is also an open standard, right? Which is also an open source, invested by HashiCorp. So, but not the least, if you think of an object storage, S3 is the industry standard, whether you like it or not, and we have API compatibility with S3. So if customers have large data or large application integrated with S3, much more easier for them to embrace our object storage when they make a move here, right? So all these things matters, and in the next 12 to 15 months, we are investing a lot to drive a lot of mind share, right? Starting with, we revamped our free tier, where a simple developer, even without a credit card, can get an account on us. And we also have a perpetually free set of services, which includes a bunch of computers and databases and a bunch of free components that never expire, right? If I were a developer, you can get to play with it forever. And we are also investing big in terms of creating communities for these developers to expand on the mind shares that we are getting a big traction on, right? So combine the story of our focus on enterprises, and we are also investing in a bunch of developer-centric services, and we are investing a bunch of CapEx to expand our regional presence. We are adding 10 to 15 new services every 3 to 6 months, right? So the entire momentum is massive, and it's truly focused on a heterogeneous set of services, and truly focused on big bets on few things that we need to do right to delight customers. And in addition to Oracle, on Oracle, HPC is one of the foundational things, right? I think this is where this is the most, less talked about, less shared story that we do really well. And I'm hoping that team and you guys can interact a lot, and we'll be able to communicate much more deeper insight into what we are doing in HPC and how this opens up a new beachhead for us in all enterprises, where this was honestly believed to be not a right use case in the cloud, but we are breaking that paradigm, and we hope to learn from you, and we hope we can also share a bunch of things that we have learned in our journey in HPC. So welcome, and thank you.